welcome to this Excel tutorial on database formulas in Excel. Database formulas are very useful when you have huge databases, like big tables from which you want to pick out values, or data which meets a particular condition or a criteria. Say, for example, I have my data here with student database and their scores, and the percentage scored. Okay, here I may have multiple columns with a number of records of students and their scores. But if I want to pick out or find out the sum of the scores of any one particular student here, let's take the sample student Agatha Christie. I can make use of database formulas here to pick out records pertaining only to the selected students, and accordingly their scores as well. Some of the most frequently used database formulas are DSUM, DCOUNT, DAVERAGE, and DCOUNTA. Let's go one by one. The first one is DSUM, also known as database sum. Now what this does is it adds the number in the fields or the column of the records in the database, which is in a table here. And it adds the data that matches a condition we want to apply. The syntax is DSUM. And then open parenthesis. Okay, so now let me show you the fields here. For better clarity, you can click on this formula or function button, and once you click it, it'll open a brief description of the arguments. Here it's asking for the database. So here, the database is this particular table. So what I can do is I can either select the entire table like this. Okay, and it says Student DB, because I've already named this range Student DB in the name box. Now first let me show you how to do that. The reason behind having a table name is that if you have multiple tables like this, adding a name to it can help you easily access the range. To do that, select the range. I've already named it Student DB in the name box. If you want to change it, you can give it another name, Student, and then hit Enter. Now once you select the range, the name appears here. Now let's move back to the DSUM syntax. Equals DSUM of the database which is student over here. Okay, either you can drag the entire data range or press the keyboard shortcut, F3, and select your data. Our data is student here, which includes the entire range, and click OK. Next is the field name, which is the part of the database taken into calculations. So in this database, student, which part do I want to sum? Say, for example, I want the sum of this particular field, score 1. So just click on the header of the column score 1, and then move to the next step, criteria. What this means is depending on what criteria you want to add the scores from score 1, in this database, student. Okay, so we have to apply a particular criteria. And for that, we need to have a criteria selection area. For that, I would need to have a small selection pane. Okay, I've now closed the formula box, and we'll come back to it later. First, we make the criteria ready. So I have to copy the entire header, and I can now have my criteria here. The condition given here is to take the sum, count, and average only if the full name is Agatha Christie. So let me just copy and paste it here. Okay, I can also have more variables. Copy and paste as values since a formula is there. Okay, so now we're all set. Let's move back to the syntax. DSUM of the function database we have already taken as student. Okay, criteria field we have taken as score 1. And now we've got our criteria table ready here. So we have to select the range of cells which contains the condition or criteria. Here it's nothing except that the name should be Agatha Christie. I've selected my criteria here, and then I'm going to hit OK. Once you click OK, the sum is coming as 143. All right, so from the entire score 1 column, it says that the sum of the scores, where the name is Agatha Christie, is 143. And let's manually check it. Here we have Agatha Christie, 2 records and 1 record here, and another record here. So the sum of all these scores is 143, which is exactly what you can see here. And you can also apply a manual filter to double-check it. Select the range, keyboard shortcut, Ctrl-Shift-L. It's going to give you a filter, and I'm going to filter out only Agatha Christie's records. So now you can just select and drag to see the sum which is in fact matching here. All right. Now, say for example, you want to see the sum of the scores of 2 of the students listed here. For that, what we have to do is to just increase the criteria range. Now my criteria range would be all these 3, where I have 2 students. And then click OK. Now you can see the sum total has gone up because we've selected both the students. We can also check this way by selecting only those students who we want in our range. And the sum of these should match 193 here. So now that we've learned how to use the database formula DSUM, we can similarly understand DCOUNT, DAVERAGE, and DCOUNTA. DCOUNT counts the number of the fields or the number of records which matches our condition. So DCOUNT equals DCOUNT, and then the database, which is going to be the same here. Select the database, and the field is also going to be the same, score 1. Criteria is also the same, 2 students, and then click OK. So you can now see, just put a filter and then select only those 2 students. And you can see the count, check the count, and it's only 5, which is matching our record here. Same thing for average as well, equals DAVERAGE of the database, which is again student. Okay, then the field name again is the same, score 1, and the criteria is also going to be the same, these 2 names. And then you click OK, and you've got the average, which is 38.6. And again, you can also check it manually here, and it's 38.6. Okay, so the last one is DCOUNTA. The difference between DCOUNT and DCOUNTA is that the DCOUNT formula counts only the filled cells that match our criteria, whereas DCOUNTA counts all the cells. irrespective of whether they have any data or not. So this means it's even going to count blank cells. Equals DCOUNTA of. We have to again select the database. Control F3 and student. Field name is going to be the same. Criteria is also the same. And we click OK. And you can see that the count is still 5. For example, let me now make a blank cell here. So I'll delete this particular cell's data. And the moment I delete it, DCOUNT reduces the count to 4. Why is this? Because DCOUNT doesn't include blank cells, whereas DCOUNTA is still showing 5 because it does count blank cells as well. So that's the difference between the DCOUNT and the DCOUNTA functions. And that's going to be all about the basic database functions. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.